Hi, everyone. I'm Dawn Richard, also known as The Awakening with Dawn, and this is the Wake Up to Real Love podcast, where we share stories of struggles and triumphs in love, sex, and relationships, along with expert advice to create more conscious connections. I am really impressed with this couple that I have on today. They are young in physical form, but ancient in their wisdom and consciousness. Andy, Horry, and Kat Francis, I am so excited and honored that you agreed to come on my show. Yay!
Hey.
Yeah, thanks for having us here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Andy, you're a video coach and an artist of many forms. You're very creative. You love to express yourself limitlessly and follow your intuition over your rational mind. I can tell through all these videos that I watched. And Kat, you are a student mentor at Leeds College of Music, and you have recently reunited and reconnected with your music and creative expression, which is so important. And I know we're going to dive deep into that part of this conversation. Kat is a singer, and she's also started writing poems. And Andy and Kat have been a couple for 7.5 years, which is amazing. A lot of people of all ages don't last that long, right? You guys have started documenting your lives as a couple in the form of a web series, which you plan on releasing episodes sometime this year. This is really fascinating, and we're going to dive into that. But after I ask you a question about the car wash.
The car wash.
Working at the car wash.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Was that last night?
No, that was when was it? Oh, that was Saturday night. The Saturday just gone. It was an open air disco.
Tell me about it.
It was an open air. It was an open air 70s themed disco in the middle of Leeds. It was a great laugh. It was so much fun. There were loads of people there. There was like 3,000 people there. It was really good.
Wow. So was Rose Royce there, or it was just somebody singing their music?
It was a DJ set. There was actually no singers or live performance, but
they had dancers there.
But
people were dancing up on stage.
Yeah.
So they were performing dances.
Yeah, so they had dancers and they had a DJ and they just had loads of stuff going on.
They had different characters. Like there was a guy that was like a kung fu kind of dancing disco guy, and then there was like a guy that was more camp and dancing like. There was like loads of different characters. Basically.
Yeah, they kind of had really stereotypical sort of 70s disco characters. So it was really fun.
I was expecting your big sparkle top, but you had these cool shades on, and you guys were like jamming in the back.
Yeah, I couldn't keep them on for long though because it was so dark. I couldn't really see what was going on.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a video clip of Kat as well. I'm thinking of putting in the documentary somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was a good laugh. Yeah, it was really good.
Okay, so my next question, and Andy, can you come like a little bit closer because you're a little bit sort of like.
It's a bit awkward because this chair's a bit.
I'm sat on a camping chair at the moment.
There we go. Yeah, now I can hear you better. Okay, so my first question is, how does a woman who loves disco music find this guy who's into total metal? What is up with that? How did that happen?
I actually have a really wide. I do love music and I love all different types of genres, and I do actually like metal as well. So it does, so in sort of in the singing that I've done, it's been more like pop music and soul music. But Andy, you're interested in all different types of music too, so it's kind of like some people might not like Andy's music and think, oh, it's too extreme, but I kind of see its place in the world, and I kind of see the use of expression, and I can appreciate it. I might not necessarily like all of the types of music that Andy listens to, but
What do you appreciate about metal?
I see it as the way that they're expressing sort of through this sound that it kind of sounds terrifying, but at the same time it almost feels, but it kind of like feels cathartic as well.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like sometimes we end up headbanging together as well.
Uh-huh.
And that's really fun. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because your documentary, Andy, tell me again what it's called.
It's called British Black Metal: The Extreme Underground.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put that in the show notes too, so people can look it up. But they do talk about all the layers of the sounds that they use to create the metal music.
That's right.
And so all of these layers are to express these various stories. And you have talked also, because in the world is all this light and love, right? All these light and love messages. And I think, are you drawn to this metal music because of the darkness and sort of shadow aspects that it talks about? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I've definitely been drawn to that in my life. And also melancholy and other sort of sides of life other than just the really ecstatic happiness or whatever. I also just enjoy being in the other states. So that kind of what got me into metal and other genres in that kind of, because so many subgenres inside metal, and I just explored all of them really. I just remember getting to a point where it was like I had to keep pushing the envelope in terms of what I was listening to. So it's like started with like new metal, which is like rap and metal mixed together, and then like that's kind of what got me into the rest. So I kind of got in because I already liked rap, and then got into that because I liked the mix of the aggression with the rapping, and then got into like other things like thrash metal and metalcore and other thing, and death metal and black metal. So like there's all these different types.
I don't know all these subgroups.
Yeah, there's a lot of, that's the thing. It's like I think metal's one of those genres that's got so much room for experimentation. So that's what's interesting about it. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do the documentary about that, because I just saw how much diversity there was in it, and I thought this is an interesting topic to be able to show how much variation there is in it. And that's what I really like about artistic expression and music is when you've got variation.
And what do you appreciate about Kat's bigger preferences of, you said sort of soul and
Oh, is that for me, that question?
Yes, question for you. What do you appreciate in Kat's preference of music?
Well, I enjoy like funk and stuff, which Kat enjoys. Like she got me into Jamiroquai. So I like listening to that now. And
I didn't even know. I mean, I know the artist, but I couldn't even remember how to pronounce the name.
Yeah. But I also like. I've always liked funk and sort of, or the bands that have funk influences and groove influences. Like I liked Rage Against the Machine for a long time, and and they've obviously got a massive funk influence. So that I've always enjoyed bands that have got a groove to them, and then like it mixes well with metal. So like the heaviness and the groove together. So I like that anyways. That's always been drawn to groove and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I'm a funk girl. I like hip hop. So that's my style.
That's it. I like that as well. But there's another guy that I really like called Tech Nine, and he's a hip hop guy, but he mixes it in with other styles, and metal's one of the styles that he kind of mixes in sometimes. Like one of his records was called Ever Ready, which definitely had some metal influence. And also KOD, which had some metal influence. And he's got this theme of being evil and like having an evil brain and angel heart. So he's got this big heart, but then he's got this evil side to him, and he's like, he kind of expresses it, and he's like got this really percussive kind of attack on the mic, so it sounds almost metal because it's like like kind of stuff like that. And it's like, whoa, this has got so much energy, and it's like it feels like metal, but it's mixed with the kind of rap atmosphere, so it's kind of crazy.
Cool. It's fascinating how people can create so much. It's like there's an unlimited potential of possibilities of creation.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing him as well next week in Leeds, so that'll be interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
That'll be a great experience.
Yeah, definitely. He's a really original, unique artist, and someone that's leading the way for hip hop and stuff.
And so. Okay, so Andy and I talked last week for a little bit to get to know each other. And he told me the story of how the two of you met and started dating, but I want Kat's perspective.
Okay.
How did this happen? Because it's sort of unusual.
Yeah, it is an unusual tale, and often people are shocked when I tell them what happened. So I was working in Leeds City Centre one evening, and I had a job handing out leaflets. And in the centre where I was working, Andy was there. And I think at the time you had a girlfriend, didn't you?
Yep.
And he was at the time.
Yes, he did. He told me.
Yeah. So he was waiting for his girlfriend while I was there handing out the leaflets. And at the time, like in that moment, I just felt this urge to just speak to him, or it was like my intuition was saying, go and speak to this person. And I fought it for a bit. I was like, oh, this is a bit weird. I don't know what I'm doing and what's going to happen. But in the end, I was just like, right, well, I find this guy attractive. So I'm just going to take the risk and I'm just going to go up to him and talk to him. So what I did is I wrote my name on one of the leaflets that I had so that he could add me on Facebook.
That was sly.
Yeah. So I went up to him and I spoke to you a little bit, and then I said, oh, this is find me on Facebook, give him a leaflet. And then after that I said, have you got a girlfriend? And he said, yeah. And I was like, oh, well, maybe just throw that leaflet in the bin. And as I walked away, I was thinking, oh no, I could be in some really big trouble here. And so that's how we met, was that I got this urge to do it. It's so difficult to explain, but it was like a calling from some other, like you could say from the universe, to just telling me to do it. Like, and it was almost like there wasn't another option. That was what I needed to do. And
you trusted your intuition and actually followed it.
Yeah. And I think there were things at the time, especially just before I did it, there were things going on in my mind like, oh, women don't normally do this, and they were the kind of beliefs that I was brought up with, and many people around me kind of had. So it was like, a woman doesn't do that. What are you doing? That's like the man that does things like that. And people also know me as quite a quiet person as well. So I'm quite introverted. So they were shocked that I went and did something extroverted, and I was shocked too. But it's amazing what you can do when you're under that influence, if you see what I mean, when you have that calling.
Well, it's like really pushing you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And you think, no, I don't want to pay attention to this message. This makes me feel uncomfortable and awkward and embarrassed.
It was scary, because I'd had instances like that before where I'd had the feelings to do that, but this was one of the strongest ones I'd ever had. And it was like, wow, what is this urge I'm feeling? What is this? Almost like I just had these hands behind me, like almost pushing me towards him. Like, oh, I've got no choice here.
Just like magnetic,
Exactly, yeah.
So how did it go from, okay, here's my leaflet, to 7.5 years later? My gosh, what happened?
It was effective marketing.
Yeah, pretty much.
because obviously he could have just thrown it in the bin, right, Kat?
Yeah. I was surprised you didn't.
In a way, it's a push-pull thing, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Or pull-push.
Yeah. So why do you think that he responded to you?
Well, at the time that he was waiting for his girlfriend, obviously I found this out afterwards, that he was going through a difficult time in his relationship that he was in. And I think when I did go up to him, I was coming across as I was coming from a genuine place and my true self. And I think you responded positively to that, and I think he could see that. Because I had no choice but to be this true, authentic self, because that's what had taken over me at the time that told me to do it. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, that's true. I could feel the genuineness.
Yeah.
To you.
Yeah. So it kind of like came at a time when you were struggling in your previous relationship. Is well.
Yeah, and I was like, I've got my options now. I can see what to do with that.
yeah, got some new options.
Yep, that's right. The universe was like, had a plan for me,
Yeah.
I think that's what.
So Andy, what propelled you to get in touch with Kat and start this, blossoming relationship?
Yeah, well, it was the struggles that I was having with my own relationship, and it was I stayed in a relationship for too long, basically, and it was like I think it was like I was staying in a relationship for wrong reasons, basically, and it was like this was like a gateway for me. It was like there's an opportunity now, so it was like, okay, I've got to leap.
So Kat was your gateway drug.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, like, what sort of first of all, what attracted you to each other? What attracted you to each other initially when you first started communicating?
So on that night that I saw Andy for the first time and I spoke to him and gave him the leaflet, I was attracted to. Oh, I liked the way he looked. He was aesthetically pleasing, and he still is. And there was something about his energy that felt right. It was almost as if like I didn't feel threatened by him. I didn't feel like he had a hidden agenda. It felt like I could go to this person and talk to them.
He felt safe.
And feel safe. And I genuinely didn't know him, so I didn't feel that. So that's initially what attracted me to him.
And what about for Andy? What attracted you to Kat?
I think, well, I guess the brave move was attractive, and just the energy that you had seemed sweet and genuine. So.
Yeah.
And so let me ask because 7.5 years is basically time for you guys to grow up, right? You're still quite young compared to me. But how has your relationship evolved over this last 7.5 years?
I think when we first got together, although we both felt this positive energy from each other, we were still both very much in a childish place. I mean, I was 19 and you were 17. He was 17 when we got together, and I think in the evolution of our relationship, we've both been growing together and turning into. So one important thing that we had to do was we had to stop identifying as kids, so not as a boy and a girl, but as a man and a woman.
Right.
And more recently, that's something that we've been focusing on, is getting out of that idea that we're still 17 and 19. Even
though a lot of times internally we do feel like a young girl and a young boy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like as you age, you experience all of you, like the the child aspect of you, the adolescent, the young adult, the older adult, the wise crone, towards the end of your life. It's like you have all of these aspects simultaneously that you resonate with.
Yeah. And I think we kind of go through those quite a lot in our relationship. But more recently, we've been trying to ground ourselves in these ideas that we're not children anymore, and we are growing together. And
I think that's when it comes into the sexual side of things as well. When you're a man or woman, and not being ashamed of your sexuality or anything like that, removing the shame and being in alignment with it, and being okay with the pleasure without any shame as well, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So how has that aspect of your relationship changed from a boy and a girl to a man and a woman?
So initially in our relationship, in sexual terms, it was kind of like very, like Andy would often come to my house and I live with my parents. So it'd often be like, have sex quietly so no one hears you, and that kind of thing. And it was very much like it became sort of quite repetitive. Like we'd meet, we'd have sex, and then we'd maybe watch TV for an hour or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it kind of just became an expectation instead of an actual positive experience. Mm-hmm. It just kind of became something like, oh, this is what we do. Mm-hmm. But over time, as things have changed, we have become more expressive in our sexuality, and we both have a deeper connection. And we slow down sex more than what we used to do. Because it used to be like, oh, you got to be quiet, and oh, let's do it quick, and then it's done. So now it's more like we take longer, and we're more present with each other, and we breathe with each other, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like lustful before, and now it's more conscious, and you feel the connection more to the actual, from soul to soul, and it's not just about the pleasure so much in terms of like physical. It's also about soul connection.
I was going to say it's really more about exploration.
Yeah.
Like giving yourself, and especially as you get older, you change the things that, you're interested in, or the things that sort of affect you and impact you. So you're constantly evolving anyways.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times sex is more, for a lot of people, is more like a goal. Like, hey, let's do it and let's have an orgasm and then we're done. As opposed to, oh, who are you and what part of your body can I explore, and what kind of your mind and imagination can I explore, and what parts of me am I willing to explore with you? What parts of me am I willing to share with you? So that it becomes more like, more like a film, Andy, really, where you're looking through the lens, and you're trying to find new ways of looking at the same person.
Yeah. And I think more recently we have started to feel that more, like we're both changing so much in terms of our connections with ourselves as well as each other. I mean, Andy has been amazing in the sense that he's helped me to liberate myself more as a woman. Mm-hmm. In my previous relationship before Andy, sex was very much a, this is what you do because you're a woman, if you see what I mean. And I was never taught about that whole sexual liberation. So it was kind of like, for me, although I still had sex, there was an unconscious part of it that was, this is shameful. Mm-hmm. And that's why it had to be like, okay, we'll get this done quickly so then we can get the shame out of the way. But now, I mean, Andy has really slowed me down and made me, and looked at my body in a different way, and helped me to look at my body in a different way. Mm-hmm. Which has then helped to liberate me in a sexual sense.
Yeah, I think I was just talking to somebody about, for men, it's generally easy. I don't know. Do men have a lot of body shame, Andy?
I don't. In my experience, not as much as women, but there is still some. I think maybe it's more known.
I think it's getting worse. Actually, I would say it's getting worse in terms of the culture, but I think it's still worse for women, and also women have got this fear of being called a slut, or like you were saying in your podcast, being shamed if you express your sexuality like out in the open. Then there's the fear of that someone's going to say you're a slut or something, and then a lot of women end up slut shaming them because they don't want to be the one that's slut shamed, so then they become the one that does it instead of the one that receives it, and then they'll limit their own sexuality as well. If they just empowered themselves and they didn't give a shit what everyone was calling them, then it would be, that's how you're empowered.
Right, but I think that's a process, especially based on your partners, because how your partner treats you reflects, like, either, wow, this is okay and I feel really good about this, or, oh, I don't feel good about this at all, right? And so I think for women, Kat, I mean, you can agree or not, but I feel like it's really, really important for a man to provide this really safe container for women to show up so that they can be more open about exploring themselves not just on a sexual level, but at an emotional level, a psychological level, a spiritual level, you know, so that you can really figure out who you are and how you want to show up in the world and how you want to show up with your partner.
I really agree with that, because I think a woman can work on that herself alone, but I think having someone to help her, like her partner as well, is also really important. And I mean, and if it hadn't have been for what Andy had done for me and helping me to understand more about liberating my sexuality, I would probably still be in that same old mindset of let's have sex, but let's get it over with. Mm-hmm. And I think as well,
let's not talk about it.
Yeah, and let's not talk about it. And that kind of feeds into the next point as well, in that I always felt quite lonely in my sexual desires, particularly before I got with Andy, because it was never really spoken about. And that's obviously, I'm sure a lot of people, generally speaking, would agree with that. And I think as a woman, particularly, I felt like, I don't know if I can talk about sex, and particularly in my background, in my family, we didn't talk about sex. It was you learned about it at school. School taught you, you know, how to get pregnant or what to do if you didn't want to get pregnant, and
how to get STDs. Meaning how not to get STDs.
And this is what this part of the body does, and this is what the male part of the body does, and that was it. It was none of the, this is the emotional connection, this is how you could use your sexual energy. It was just a very matter of fact. So I've always felt quite isolated in my feelings about sex, and being sexually expressive. So, you know, now I'm with Andy, and he provides that container for me. You know, my mental health has just been getting better, and my sexual expression has been getting better as well. I just feel so much more comfortable.
And don't you, I mean, I would like you to talk about this, because I think a lot of men, boys to men, approach sex very goal oriented. Like, I just want to have sex. I want to have an orgasm. You know, it's a physical need. And yeah, sure, I feel connected, and maybe I'll cuddle a little bit, and then I go on my merry way. But in order to have the most, I'll just say, well-rounded experience of sex, is that you provide this safe container for the woman, and that you allow, both you have to give as much, you know, because it's so much quicker for men to receive, right? And to get to orgasm. And so I think a lot of times men just think that, you know, well, it just takes a few minutes and we'll just have a little foreplay and then that's done. And, you know, this is something that I've tried to share with my kids, much to their dismay, because they don't, you know, I mean, it's sort of awkward talking about it with your parents. But if you want to have really great sex with a woman, you need to cater to her needs first. Yeah. And by catering to her, she's going to open up and cater to you in a mind-blowing and other blowing ways, you know. So that you can have this just not only great physical experience, but have this incredible emotional, psychological, spiritual experience.
Yeah, that's true. You do have to. I think at times, a lot of the time I'd known, I kind of knew about it, but then you also do have failures as a man, or like you feel like, oh, I could have done this better, and then like move through it. And like you said, we do have a more goal oriented mind, or like we're just ready and we go. And a woman's not ready straight away, so we've got to be aware of that. And then also you realize through exploration that if they're enjoying it, you enjoy it more. So it's just to not let them enjoy it, because and you end up having this wisdom of like, the more they enjoy it, the more I enjoy it. And obviously you have got this intuition we all want other people to enjoy what we give them. So it's just natural for a human to do that, and to slow down and be like, yeah, take it at your own pace. And obviously I'd also been on a spiritual journey as well. You realize that slowing down is important anyway. So seeing it as a spiritual journey, and sex as being a vehicle for your sexual or spiritual involvement, then then it reminds you to slow down, and like, I'm already on a spiritual mission. This is a vehicle for my spiritual mission and soul mission. So that's kind of the way I've looked at sex, especially over the past few years. Maybe before that, not so much, but when I was learning about spirituality after doing the documentary and stuff, that was definitely how it changed things.
It's like the more fun that you can have, with your partner, the more pleasure that you can help your partner experience, that it does. Like as a man, I think men are really turned on when they see their woman turned on.
Yeah, definitely.
And so how great is that? Like, she's turned on, and this is great for me too. It's
like call about the mirror neurons, isn't it? When you see someone else happy, it gives you a happiness.
Right.
Reflectors or mirrors,
right. And I think too, that men think, oh, well, it takes women a little longer. It takes women a lot longer. I mean, men, you can't have an orgasm on demand, right? It's like you may get an erection pretty quickly, but you won't have an orgasm on demand. And it's the same way that our women's bodies take much more time and sensitivity in order to, fully like engorge and be excited, and then to have the possibility to be penetrated and have orgasm, So, I mean, I've been telling my kids, like, for women, it takes 20 to 45 minutes for a woman to be fully ready to receive a man. And I think a lot of men either don't know that, they don't realize that. And so then they just sort of get frustrated or impatient. But if like every man approached saying, okay, I got a good hour, I have a good hour to take to, try to make this happen in whatever form or fashion, then we just give permission for ourselves to just explore.
Yeah.
I think when you're patient with a woman as a man as well, then you become more patient with yourself as well. So it's not just about them, it's about you as well. So you'll learn more about yourself. About if you force yourself, then it's going to turn you off as well. You're still vulnerable to that as well as the woman is. So, and I think they might get frustrated if they take a while to get the woman in the mood, and then they've turned themselves off from some reason somehow in the process. And they might get frustrated and like, oh shit, no, I'm not in the mood. So that can happen as well at times. But you gotta get through those blocks.
Yeah. Well, and so that happens, and so then I mean, I really think what you said, Kat, is so important about having these open conversations with somebody, because if you can't have these open conversations with somebody, it's like you disconnect so much of who you show up as in your partnership. Yeah.
I mean, I remember before when I was describing what it was like before, it was like being cut off from the world and feeling kind of like there's something not right with you mentally, because you want to explore this your sexuality and your sexual desires, but then your partner doesn't want to do that, and you obviously and in my mind it's all, I can't talk to my family because that's a taboo, and it's just really isolating. So I think it's important to be able to show up as truly as possible in order to get that out, because it's only going to get worse if you don't talk about it. It's only going to cause more pain.
Right. So let me ask you about your challenges in communication, and I want you to talk about that, because then I want you to tell about your short film about the awakening.
Okay.
Yeah. So how did this come about?
So the awakening came about was I had a dream, and it was really, really, it was so vivid and realistic. And what happened was that in the dream, I was at work and I was at my desk, and I suddenly felt this wave come over me of like, when you're going to faint, and you kind of like, and I felt it really strongly. And in the dream, I had a choice. I kind of said, I've got a choice. I can fight this feeling, or I can just go with it and faint. So in the dream, I decided to faint. And then in the dream, so I was on the floor in this from what looked like out to everyone on the outside was that I was laying on the floor unconscious. But actually I was very conscious. I wasn't moving, but I could see everything that was happening around me. And it was kind of like what I'd imagine death to almost be like, is once you're at the other side of the fear, there's kind of like this uninterrupted peace. So while I was on the floor in the dream, I could hear people saying, Catherine, Catherine, and like wanting to help me get up. But I was so peaceful with all this chaos around me. It was really, really, it was like a spiritual awakening. It was like, this is what is at the other side of all of the bullshit that I worry about and all of the chaos that I get stressed about. This is what it's like at the other side, and you can get to it. And I got to it in a dream, and you know, I still draw from that now when I'm stressed. And I still think, oh, remember what that was like. You got there, and you can get there again. And what happened was, I told Andy about it, and you were really interested in it, weren't you? And I wrote it out as a poem. And then Andy decided to make a video for it. And that's how we got the short film.
Yeah, before that went well, I'd also been writing this song, or this like really short kind of thing, but I was thinking about having it for an opening for an album or something. So I think I might still do that, I'm not sure yet. But with my music, I'm in and out of it. I don't know if I'm going to keep going, and it's like, you know, I never know when I'm going to keep going or not, because my creative stuff goes all over the place. But I was trying to create this dark energy, because I'm interested in that. So, and I just enjoyed making that, being in that vibration. So I created this music, and then when you were talking about your poem, I thought actually that sounds like a lot of similar to the vibration I was creating, because it was dark, it sounded dark but also liberating, and it was like that's kind of what my music's about. So it's like finding darkness and being one with darkness, and not seeing it as a bad thing, because dark and light are opposing forces or things that aren't really.
I call them complementary.
Yeah. That's it. The complementary. Yeah, and you can't have light without dark. They have to be there. It's like the yin and yang. So that was kind of me writing the music, and then thought, oh, I could actually put this on top of my music. So I did it just as a track, and then after I thought, I could actually make a video about this. Then or make a short film out of the music. So it's like a music video kind of thing. So then that's what made me think about, and then I thought of ideas of like having you walking through a tunnel, and then having you lying down on the ground with your eyes open, looking around. So
it was a collaborative process. We both worked on it together, and we were talking about, like, I was like, oh, let's drive to this location to film this, and let's do that, and let's include this in it. And then you were working out all the cinematography and what, you know, all the lighting and everything, and it was really enjoyable. It was a really good project to do together.
It was really cool.
Thank you. Yeah,
it was really, really cool.
Yeah, and sort of going back to that darkness, the concept of the dream to most people would be very, very dark, and like, oh my God, you know, you experience something like death. And most people that, you know, it's probably my family wouldn't want to hear that. They'd be like, oh my God, you know, we don't want to talk about that. But it wasn't about fearing death. It was about accepting what's coming, and then being in this moment of peace where you are completely unaffected by everything that's happening around you, good or bad, and you're not reactive to it.
I think it's almost like when you're ill, you kind of get to this point where you just don't take as much shit, you know what I mean? Or like you don't try and smile at people and go, you know, it's that fake smile that you do. It's like, kind of your face is kind of like, I don't really, I've lost any of that kind of, I'm not giving any energy to that anymore, because I'm giving energy to sort of just kind of getting by with, or like I've been giving yourself rest when you're ill and stuff. Sometimes that feels like an enforcement of boundaries when you're ill. It's like, I'm not even going to pretend to laugh at your jokes or do these other things that we do.
Right.
Like, it's almost like that, I'd say.
Yeah. It's kind of like I got to a point where I was run down and stressed, and I think my spirit just needed a bit of a wake up call and a bit of rest. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, because I've heard you say a couple of times, Andy, about the silence, you know, so it's really accepting that peace and that stillness and that silence.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was very much like I could still hear what was happening around me, but it was like being in silence at the same time. It was, it really was. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I would love to see many more of those.
Oh yes, they're coming. They're definitely coming along. Because we want to do more poetry and we want to do more films and other things, and actually the documentary actually shows behind the scenes of us making The Dark Awakening. So that's another thing to come as well.
So tell me, because I know creativity is so important to both of you. How has your creativity helped like cement your relationship with each other, and just, you know, finding the fullness of expression of who both of you are as individuals and as a couple?
Well, I remember when I was in bands before, like in high school, and then I met Kat when I was in sixth form. So it was going from sixth form to university and beyond. But, well, actually, I was only in bands when I was in sixth form and then to university, and then I stopped being in bands for a bit. But through all the bands that I've been in, Kat was always there and being supportive of me and seeing deeper than just the disagreements and stuff like that. If we have disagreements, she'd always see past it, and I'd see past if she was in a mood with me or other things like that. And we'd always see past it and be aligned souls and being like, there's nothing that could shake this connection. But with other bands, they came and went. It was almost like a spiritual journey for me, of like spiritual lesson when people say, this too will pass kind of thing. The bands come and go and the creative projects come and go, but then we're still together through all of that. And it's like, shows how strong our connection is.
And I was always accepting of his creative work, you know, when he was in bands and he was going out with his friends and going to practices, I always encouraged him to do that. I never said, oh no, not tonight, it's date night tonight, let's do this. I was always like, go and do it, because this is who you are and this is what you love to do. And I think having that in the relationship has really helped, because I've been sort of like an anchor, but at the same time given him that freedom and not said to him, oh no, you can't go out and do that, because that would limit his creativity, and then that would have caused more problems. But also Andy helped me to get in touch with my creativity more as well. And now it's really fundamental in our relationship, because we're both very creative people and we both see the talents in each other, and we hold each other accountable to share our creativity and share our truth, and not to hide that from other people.
I think there's another thing that's coming up for me, is that some of the things that's harder for me to share about is like when in the past, when I had negative behaviours that I would give out to Kat, like if I would make fun of what she was wearing or something like this because of what I picked up from my surroundings and people, the laddish kind of sound of atmosphere or behaviours that happen when they take this out of you and stuff like that. I think I ended up sort of projecting that onto Kat, and then because she wasn't a strong character like other people, if you know what I mean, because we were both introverted, so we both didn't stand up for ourselves much. So I was doing all this thing without being unconscious doing it and not realising how much it was affecting her. But then she wasn't telling me, like enforcing her boundaries, like don't do that. So then it kind of eventually did sort of tell me off or like say don't do that. And then I was like, oh shit, I didn't realise I was even doing that. And then that was like, even though it's harder for me to talk about that because it make me look that great, it's important to mention because that was a journey that I had to go through to learn about myself and learn the bullshit I was carrying of other people's stuff. And then I realised, and then Kat taught me a lesson of what I had in me that was not working, and you had the intuition to tell me.
And it was like a limit. I allowed it to limit my creativity when Andy was saying things like, oh, what are you wearing that for, or whatever. I was sometimes like trying to be creative and trying to express myself in what I was wearing, but then I took on his opinion too much, and then that limited my creativity in what I wore and how I had my hair. But then it leaked into other parts of my life, and then I like didn't want to be creative at all. At one point, I didn't even think I was creative, and I just felt like, no, that's not me. I'm rubbish at that. I'm just going to be really plain, and so that's something that eventually kind of I got really fed up of, and I said to him, this needs to change. And Andy, you owned your shit.
Yeah, so you've got to own it and you can't be in denial, because you've got to accept what's there before you change it. But also, like, even with you singing and stuff, like I was like a bit too much of a perfectionist, so then would like disable you from singing even sometimes, and then like say, oh, you can't do that, or you can't sing right, or something like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't seeing the potential. I was just like shutting down everything, because I was shutting down myself a lot as well. I was shutting down my own creative flow, so then I would shut down hers because of my own. So it's like people say that you're sort of projecting on other people the stuff that you do. This, like, if you destruct yourself, you'll destruct other people, basically. So if you start loving yourself more and more, then you'll actually love other people. So
it's like your own insecurities that you were projecting onto Kat.
I think it was like my energy that I was always trying to prove myself to people and be perfect and not have any flaws, and like hide all the flaws, show the things that I think are good and useful or engaging and entertaining, and it made me write good music and that. But then it also can be a destructive thing as well, of putting other people down and saying you can't do it, and disabling them and saying don't even try, don't fail. I think that's one of the messages, a lot of the messages that I had got as I was growing up, don't fail. So I was like obsessed with not failing then, and sometimes I'd not even finish a creative project because I was like crippling myself, saying you've got to be perfect. So I would end up having a pretty good quality of work, but then what's the costs of it? You know what I mean? So then I had to realise that take the perfection away and strive for excellence but not perfection, and pick people up from where they are and get them to grow. And if there's something that's not going that well, then just help them to show them what the problem is, but don't shut them down and say don't do it at all, kind of thing.
Right, because I feel like a lot of people, and I have these perfectionistic tendencies too, you know, where I think everything has to be in place in order to put something out there, you know, because, oh, what if they judge me? What will they think of me? What if they laugh at me? You know, and you have to face all of these insecurities. And while the two of you were talking, I was thinking the word permission came to me. And it was like, you have to give yourself permission to be who you are, just like you have to give each other permission to be who the other person is, you know, because and I think that sort of judgment and insecurity is what comes up when we're not giving the other person permission, because we're not giving ourselves permission.
Yeah, and as you were talking then, Dawn, that just reminded me when you were talking about the perfectionism and not, you know, waiting for the perfect time to do something. A couple of months back, some friends of ours were having a party, and at the party they were having a spoken word event, and it was like an open mic so different people could get up. And what Andy did was he told the people at the party that I was going to get up and do a poem in front of everyone before telling me. And
Thanks, Andy.
And it was on Facebook, so it was official. And I was like, oh, okay. But and I was really nervous, and I was like, oh my God. And I think about 10 minutes before I was due to go, and I was like, oh my God, I want to go home. I want to kill Andy. But afterwards, I saw exactly why he did it, and now I'm thankful that he did it, because what I was doing was I had this poem that I'd never read to anyone before, and it's called Material Worlds, and I'll mention a bit more about that in the contact at the end. I had written this poem and I'd never shared it, and I was like sitting there waiting for that perfect opportunity for the right time, the right moment, the right feeling. And Andy was just like, no, you're not waiting. You go in and
just do it.
So I was like, oh my God, but I'm so glad he did it now, because if he hadn't have put that action into motion, I would have just sat there and not read it out. And I read it out again a couple of weeks ago at a spoken word open mic night in Leeds City Centre. And again, I probably would not have done that if Andy hadn't have done that initial action of pushing me to do it that first time. Because
there's another moment there as well, a similar moment.
Yeah, which one?
Because when she wanted to read a poem out at Sunday practice, this event, she was saying, oh, I'm not sure I should read it out. And I was like, isn't this what we would have done last time if I'd not actually put you forward?
Yeah.
So she was questioning it before again.
I was questioning it
like,
again.
Should I do it? I'm like, why are you questioning yourself? Just do it.
Yeah, that's it. And it's ironic because Andy has Andy has more perfectionistic tendencies than what I do. But in that moment, you was like, fuck perfectionism, just get up and do it. And I'm glad he did it now.
That's really, a great thing. That's a great thing though about when you have flaws, and like, I've become such a person, like in my life, I've been crippled by perfection, but that's actually been a gift for me because I've turned it into working with people to help them get past the perfection. But at first it seems like
you teach what you most need to learn.
That's it. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like it seems like a curse at first, and then you realize this actually isn't a curse because I can transform it into something that's great. And that's made me, even though I've had worse perfectionism than Kat's ever had in her life. Yeah. I end up getting her out of her little perfection because I'm like, that's just a small thing. You should have seen what the fuck I went through.
Well, how do you feel like your creativity is a mirror for your spirituality?
I think it's like it's almost like a creative art form is like a vehicle for your spiritual evolvement and evolution of like when you creatively express yourself and create. It's like creativity and spirituality. It feels like the same thing to me because it's just creation. Like creation it comes from source and awareness and just the nature of reality and like that sort of life force energy. It's like creativity is that life force energy, which is what spirituality is all about. So I don't really see them as different. It's just they're just so much the same, really, to me.
And for me, a lot of my sort of work at the moment is about questioning things that have been limiting you in your life. Because that's what I'm doing right now for myself. Is I'm looking at a lot of my old beliefs and saying, where has that come from? What can I do to change that? And so one of my poems is Material World is about that, questioning some of the things in you some of the messages you received when you were growing up that were telling you can't do this or you can't go there. So in terms of my spirituality at the moment, my work is my creativity is reflecting my own battle with my own limiting beliefs and thoughts, and finding a connection with your true self through trial and error of getting up on stage and potentially reading out a poem that could be a disaster and that sort of thing. So that's how it's reflecting me at the moment.
Also another thing is I see life now as a stage. This is kind of a download I got from, like people say, you get download from the universe. My download was that life is the main stage. So if you're on a stage, it's just a little stage. The life is the main stage, and it's like if you're in public or like walking through town, or if you're on a bus and there's people around you, you can just look around and go, I'm on a stage here. People can see me. Whatever I do in life, you're always going to be seen, and you're always on this stage. So if you see life as a stage, every moment's a stage, then all these other stages and things just seem like they don't really seem a big deal anymore. You're just like, I'm always on a stage, so let me just continue it on these little stages.
I'm always on a stage, and I'm always going to F up sometimes.
Yeah.
So just accept it and just go on. It's just part of the human experience.
Yeah, because everyone looks around and goes, "Oh, what should I do?" based on people's reactions, and it's like, don't do that. Just do what you want to do, and just don't care about people's reactions. And it's like, if they enjoy it, they enjoy it. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if they do or don't, because it's more just about your expression.
Yeah, it's about that process of expression and not the outcome of it, just the process and being in that flow and just enjoying it.
Yeah, and just about sharing a perspective that might get people questioning some of their own thoughts. And, like with my poem, I didn't know if the audience at the party liked it or not, but that was beside the point. It was more that I had a message to share. If it resonated with people, great. If it didn't matter, because I got up there and I did it, and I was sharing a truth.
Yeah, it's for you. And if anyone else enjoys it, that's good as well. It's like you're just giving that vibration respect with the way you show up, and it's like, if anyone else enjoys the vibration, that's good, but it's for my own self-amusement. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I believe that spirit creates through us, like that we are the conduit, and I know you've mentioned that word before, Andy. It's like we are the conduits of how the universe wants to express through us, so the things that light us up, that bring us joy, that not even just light us up, but also make us welcome the darkness and the silence and the peace too. you know, all of those things are experiences of the whole of, you know, humanity and divinity. It's like we're all reflecting it all. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Does, and I'm also enjoying that you've done some research on me as well, which is interesting to see.
Of course. And I love, and your little, your monkey, Tony and Rory.
Yeah.
Just cracked me.
That's the thing, exactly. Again, like, it's my amusement. That was my amusement. I get amused by it. And if anyone else does, that's great. But it's just about me, really.
So I feel like the two of you have so much great creativity and expression and authenticity. Like, you are just going to shine in the world. I mean, we'll accept your darkness and your silence, but you have so many gifts to share. I am so honored that you agreed to show up today with me.
Oh, thank you. It's been great. It's been great to be here.
It's been awesome to have this podcast as the first experience of us, you know, being
us
interviewed.
together,
Yay! So hopefully it's just the first of many.
Yeah. It definitely will be.
Okay, so my last question that I ask all my guests is, what is your definition of real love?
I think for me, it's just that openness and being able to be so vulnerable. And you know, in our relationship, it's like Andy has been there for me through so many difficult experiences in my life, and where I've just been honest and I've told him exactly what I've thought and exactly how I felt. And I just think part of real love is just being able to become totally vulnerable in front of your partner, and for them not to judge you and not to see it as an opportunity to harm you either. Because I think in some cases, you can, if you're more vulnerable, sometimes you can be open to manipulation and that sort of thing. And I just think Andy has facilitated some of my emotions, and he has just been so understanding. So I think that's another part of it as well, just bringing in that understanding and almost like unconditional love as well.
It's like, as well, like, instead of having that one-upmanship or whatever, like sometimes couples say, oh yeah, I'm going to keep that, hold that over him, or hold that over her, or something. I don't like doing any of that stuff. So I don't think that's not love if you're doing that. I think so. I think what love is really is just the sort of dissolvement of separation, just like unity. Really, what love is. You feel a feeling of unity, and like you don't even. Sometimes you forget you're even separate beings. You just feel like it's just one. Oneness.
And I think owning your bullshit as well. You know, and just saying, I'm sorry, I really messed up there. And just being able to go back and reflect instead of, like what Andy said, instead of just holding it against someone or against your partner, think about, well, why am I doing that? And then, just admitting, I did this because it reminded me when this happened, or, that kind of thing. Just instead of hiding it, because you do, you do hear about it in relationships, and you see it in TV shows as well, where people hide something in a relationship. And it's like something that could have been sorted out in 2 minutes that becomes this whole thing that sort of becomes a massive thing. And I think part of real love is being able to say that to the partner and say, or to your partner and say, I really fucked up there. I'm sorry.
Communication. Communication.
Yeah, just communicate.
Communication is big because for you sometimes in the past there was things that you didn't tell me, but then it came out. They always come out eventually, but it's just like this fear of being open fully. Even though you were open and honest, it's hard for you to not be honest. But then sometimes your mind would take over so much that it start telling you fearful thoughts of like, can't tell him that, or he's going to leave me, or can't tell him that, or this is going to happen, or catastrophes are going to happen, that kind of thing. Then when we talk about it, it's like not a big deal really. Not the time.
Yeah. So giving each other permission to just show up and be.
Yeah.
You guys are a beautiful, beautiful couple.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure to have you on today. So that our listeners can find more of your work and yourself, where can they contact you? How can they find you?
So for my stuff, my coaching, I've got a website called coachandy.co.uk and a Facebook page as well, Coach Andy Horry. And you can add Kat Francis as well.
Yeah,
follow me.
At the moment I'm on Facebook. So if you go through Andy, you'll probably find me on Facebook. And I'm under the name of Kat Francis. And for anybody who wants to check out my poem and other little bits that I've done, they can just drop me a message on Facebook or send me a friend request.
Cool.
And they can have a look.
And I think, Andy, that you need to officially document her reading her poem.
Yeah.
I think I've got a recording at this. I've got a recording of you.
He recorded me. He recorded me reading out the poem.
And I'm going to be more recordings as well when we go to things like. I actually brought a mic along with me to get the good quality, and then it ended up running out of batteries. So it's not the greatest audio.
Oops.
It took his big camera and his microphone, but in the end, did you use your phone in the end?
I used the camera, but I just didn't use the good audio. So next time I'm going to get a better audio. So I don't know if I'm going to use that other footage, but we put it on Facebook. So there's her poem "Material Girls." She reads out at Sunday practice, and that's
Material World.
Material World.
Yeah.
There you go. She read that out at Sunday practice, and we recorded that. And I recorded my poem "Sexual Magic" as well.
Yeah.
And I got the
energy. I saw that. I love that. Little drawings and erasings, the drawings and erasings.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah. And also my performances as well at Sunday practice.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to much more creative projects coming out of both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, and y'all are more than welcome to come on anytime. You're a pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay, so for my listeners, if you like what you heard today, please subscribe to the Wake Up to Real Love podcast and share with all of your friends around the world. And if you would like support in finding more connection, expansion, freedom, authenticity, and acceptance in your own relationships, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Awakening with Dawn. Feel free to send me a message, and I'd be honored to help you find and create more real love in your life. And we have touched on this several times over our talk. The thing that I like to end my podcast with is the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself, so that you can be the kind of partner that you want to have. So thank you very much, Andy and Kat, for being here today. It was a pure honor and pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, listeners, we will see you next time. Challenge yourself to wake up to real love every day. All right, take care. Bye.